Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. It's just me and Joe tonight holding down the fort. We got our starts and sits for Week 8. Joe, how are we feeling tonight?
Feeling pretty good. My teams are going on a run this year, hoping to win multiple leagues, ideally. So, team's looking good. Players staying healthy, getting some players back, which is nice. So, we'll be talking about that. How about you, Matt? How you doing?
Not too bad. Not doing as well as you, except for Dynasty. I'm second place, but we'll see how that goes. Your team is I think the team to beat. Richie, sorry, but no. It's going to be me or Joe. You and me in the final. How awesome would that be? That'd be fun.
That would be cool. I was looking at my team today, and I've never had a problem where I'm looking at my players, and I'm like, I don't know I have so many good players. I want to start all of them. So it's just now I'm just playing matchups, and it's a great feeling because before I was like, oh no, I need a running back. I'm struggling at depth, and now I'm like, it's great. Yeah. It's great.
No, I was there a few years ago, and it's nice when you get to make the wrong decision on starts and sits because you have the ability to do that instead of just being like, all right, I have to start this person because that's literally the only person playing. So it's always enjoyable when that happens. But redraft, we're still pushing. We're still pushing. Not giving up. 1-6, but it ain't over till it's over. So keep going. True. Crazy things happen. I'm sure it's happened to me before. I went 2-5 or 2-6 one year, and I ended up winning the whole league. So just persevere. Just keep pushing through. But we're going to do our starts and sits this evening. So why don't we just go right down to it? Let's do our starts. All right, Joe, why don't you kick us off here? We're each going to do 2 starts at each position. Since there's only 2 of us, we want to get as many guys out there. No one's on bye this week, so
it's awesome. Love that.
It's fun.
Buys are killer sometimes, especially if you don't have the good depth at position. So We'll start off with the quarterbacks. My first quarterback start of the week is none other than my boy, Mr. Caleb Williams. He's going against the Commanders this week. Caleb has been steadily progressing as a passer, which is great to see. He threw for 226 yards last week and ran for 56. Threw 4 touchdowns last week with 1 interception. It's just great to see, and he's going against the Commanders this week. That they could be a struggling team. Jaden Daniels is questionable with that rib injury. If he were to not play, I could see the Bears having a field day against their offense and just taking the ball from the Commanders often, which means Caleb's going to have the ball in his hands more often, which means more fantasy points for you. So that is why he is my start of the week.
Yeah, we'll see if the Commanders' defense is actually good or if they're bad. Because when they go up against bad quarterbacks, they do very well. It's a weird thing. I've been looking at their stats, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. But we'll find out this week. I love that start. I think it's good. My first start of the week is going to be Stroud going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Want to give everyone out there in fantasy a confidence boost to play Stroud because what we've been seeing so far this year, especially with Nico on IR, is just when he's in a tough matchup, he just hasn't been able to overcome it. Like even last year, going back to last year, he had the same struggles. He really lit up bad defenses, and especially his home and road splits are a little bit wishy-washy. But having Nico out, he helped with a lot of the deep balls and touchdowns, but without him, it's just been rough. So I think this is a right ship game for him as a passer. The Colts right now rank bottom 10 in points allowed to quarterbacks so far this season, so they're allowing the 10th most. It's an in-division matchup against the Colts, and I'm just waiting for it. I think this is where it comes in. It's going to be a huge bounce back game for him. Joe Mixon brings something to this offense and makes it run a little bit better. Colts really bad against the run, so I expect some of that to inhibit him this week. But overall, I think he needs a big game, and I think this is where it happens against the Colts.
Yeah, I like this pick. I mean, the Colts are struggling, to say the least, and I'm not attacking you, Matt, but Anthony Richardson has looked really, really bad. He completed 10 of 24 passes last week, which is terrible. So
on the waiver show, I told people to drop him,
yeah,
and I think you might look on our league and you might see his name on the waiver wire real soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm holding out hope, but I do love Stroud starting this week against that team. Moving right along to my next quarterback start, I have Bo Nix, Denver Broncos quarterback, going against the Panthers, and my reason for starting him is the Panthers. Not only that Bo is looking really good, he's using his legs a lot, which is great to see. You love a rushing quarterback. He rushed for 75 yards last week and 61 before that, so that's awesome for fantasy. But the Panthers look terrible, and good news for anyone playing the Panthers, bad news, Andy Dalton was involved in a car accident, which was personally, I think, some of their only lifeblood for that team. So now
100%.
we're going back to Bryce Young, who looked terrible. So I think the Broncos are going to have the ball often. I think they're going to get ahead, and if they get ahead, they're going to want to keep the clock running. So I think Bo Nix is going to do some rushing. I think he's going to rush for at least 40 yards again this week, and he's going to have a pretty good day in the air. I mean, he's going to slice and dice. He's going to get you fantasy points. I'm projecting at least 20 fantasy points for Bo Nix this week.
I can see it. I mean, he's someone that we mentioned it, me and Chris, on the waiver show on Monday. He's rushed for 60 or more yards in the past 2 games. So I think that's part of it. The Broncos, Sean Payton has come out and said he wants to get his young guys involved, and I think this is a big week to do that because the Panthers are a cakewalk. They just are. I'm sorry, I'm not breaking news here, but they're just not able to do anything on defense. So this is a time where I think they're going to really go into all of these young guys and get them a lot of reps, and I think it's going to help out. So just asking for a friend, obviously not me, because I wouldn't do that. Would you play Bo Nix or Jared Goff against the Tennessee Titans defense?
Oh,
my friend's asking. It's hard.
I mean, you said Bo Nix or Jared Goff. I'd probably go Bo Nix. I mean, that matchup is just too juicy. Although now that D-Hop's out of Tennessee, I don't see Tennessee doing really well either. So, well, I mean, both teams, but I think I'd go with Bo Nix. The Panthers are just so bad.
I'll let my friend know. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'll let him know.
Yeah, call him up.
I will. So my next quarterback start of the week is going to be Dak Prescott going against the 49ers. Cowboys have been really bad so far, so why would you start him? But I'm going to give you a couple reasons. Going back to last year, we went through this exact same thing. They couldn't run the ball efficiently. They had their bye, and they decided, you know what? CeeDee Lamb is pretty good at football, right? We're just going to pepper him with targets, and we're just going to go through the air. Jake Ferguson is good through the air, so let's just target our guys and become a passing offense. That's what they did last year. I think that's what they're going to do this year. Now, looking at Dak Prescott coming off of a bye, he averages about 23.4 fantasy points in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, which puts him in a top 6 fantasy football conversation this week. Although I don't think he's going to finish maybe top 6, I do think that there is going to be an outcome where that is possible. They're going to come out swinging against the 49ers and just pass the ball like it's no one's business. Playoff rematch, and I think this time the Cowboys come out on top, led by Dak Prescott and the passing game. I think this is going to be the week where you're happy you started Dak. The beginning of the fun part.
It can't get any worse than week 6. I mean, 5.22 fantasy points is brutal for a quarterback. Yeah. I'm starting him in Guillotine this week. I have confidence in him. Like Matt said, he's coming off the bye. He just got that payday. He has to show us something better. So I think he was out there practicing. I think they came up with some new plays. Maybe I think he's going to come out there. He's going to prove something. I'm looking forward to a big Dak day.
Nice.
So hopefully that happens. Moving along, we will go to running backs neck. My first running back for the week is Mr. Najee Harris, who's playing Oh, the Giants. The terrible New York Giants that I am sadly a fan of. Najee has looked really good. He last week he had a 49% snap share, which I like to see a little more, but I mean they were so far ahead. They were just destroying the Jets. Russell Wilson looks to be the real deal there for the Steelers, and Najee looked great. I mean he's coming off 2 consecutive 100+ yard rushing games, which is great to see. Arguably the Jets pretty much on paper, the Jets have a better defense than the Giants. So going from a 100-yard rushing game against the Jets now to the Giants, I think he's going to do just as well. I'm projecting him to get another touchdown this week to continue that touchdown spree. And I wouldn't promise a 100-yard game, but I'd say at least 60 to 70 yards with a touchdown, and you'll be happy you started him.
Yeah, I mean, Najee is one of those guys where I've always thought he looked slow because he was. But now, I mean, he shed a little bit of weight in this offseason, and he looks good. I mean, he looks like one of these players that they're just kind of going through the motions, and then until all of a sudden, boom, they're just a fantasy godsend. And I think that's Najee this year. He looks really, really good. My running back start of the week, and I'm going to go kind of similar to the way I did CJ Stroud. I want to give you confidence, okay? It's going to be Achane going against the Arizona Cardinals, okay? Tua might not come back this week. All signs point to that he is. Achane so far this season has not been anything close to what you drafted him to be, but so is the entire Dolphins offense. So he looks to be a different player. He's coming back from injury. If Tua comes back this week, this offense gets a massive, massive boost. He's been under 10 points in 4 straight games, but I'm going to chalk that up to the XFL level QB play we've seen between Snoop Huntley and Tim Boyle. Now, there is the caveat. What if Tua doesn't play? Look at the matchup. The Cardinals are a juicy, juicy matchup for opposing quarterbacks, and Achane does a ton of work in the passing game. I think this game plan this week is going to get the ball out of Tua's hands quick, or whatever quarterback, and just dump off central for Achane. This is going to be one of those weeks where we can finally start our Miami Dolphins. Now, I am a Tyreek Hill manager, and it sucked for the past 6-7 weeks. All right, it's been terrible, but this is the time to start it. You're not going to wait to see what happens. You're going to have to trust that the Dolphins and Tua are healthy. They took the time they needed to get things right, and here they are. I wanted to ask you, because I know I talked to Chris, what do you think about Tua? Let's say he plays this week. Like, are you starting him this week? Are you going to put him in your lineup if you have him? Or are you going to wait and see?
I mean, I kind of want to wait and see just in case, but if you need a quarterback, I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he's very adamant about not wearing his Guardian cap, so
yeah.
We'll see. I think he's going to be fine as long as he doesn't take more of those big hits. He should be good. I mean, he was good before he got hurt, so
yeah,
just continue
amazing.
it. Yeah. I like that start. I think this is the week where Asian owners are finally going to rejoice. Moving right along, I also have a running back who he's been pretty consistently good. He's right around. Hasn't had any big breakout games, but I'm starting Brian Robinson Jr. this week. He's playing the Bears. He hasn't broken 20 fantasy points, which is I consider like a big breakout game for a running back. But he hasn't scored under 10 fantasy points a single game he's played. I mean, he missed that Baltimore game with that knee injury, and I was expecting him. I started him this week kind of because I had no one else, but I was expecting him to be a little limited on snaps because he was coming off that injury, and he did only have a 38% snap share, which is I think a little low compared to some of his other starts, but he still ran for 71 yards and got a touchdown. So I think now that he's like back to being 100%, he's going to be the lead guy. He's getting the first touches over Eckler. You're going to want to start him. He's going to get fantasy points, especially if Jaden Daniels misses time. They're going to be leaning on this run game, and that is Brian Brian. He's going to just be running it. So fantasy points should be good.
Yeah, I mean, he's another one that I saw somebody say that in their draft they accidentally selected B. Robinson like in the first round, realizing after that, whoops, that was not Bijan where I wanted him. It was Brian Robinson. Through the first part of the season, that was probably the right choice because Bijan didn't really start until recently. But Brian Robinson Jr., I mean, last week, he did well, and like I don't care about the snap share last week because one, they lost your quarterback early in the game. Two, they didn't need him. They didn't need anybody because they were just pummeling on the Panthers. So don't be scared away from that. I think that's an excellent start. I would love to have Brian Robinson this week. Now, for me, my second running back start of the week is going to be Javonte Williams going against the Carolina Panthers. Yep, I'm going to do it again. Target the Panthers defense. Doesn't matter who you are, you can beat the Panthers on the ground, through the air, everywhere. So I expect the Broncos to be up in this game, so that means they're going to lean on the run game pretty heavily to drain the clock. Javonte has been playing at least 65% of snaps, leading the running backs in Denver, which is something we didn't know was going to happen early in the year. It didn't seem like it. But through 2 weeks, his running efficiency, his yards per carry is 5 yards, just over 5 yards. The Panthers lead the league in points given up to running backs, so don't overthink this. Play Javonte Williams. You will be happy, and you will rejoice. Play Javonte.
Yeah, I told someone to sit him last week, and that was the wrong call on my part. So I thought the Saints were going to look a little better, but
that was process over result. Like no one could have seen that coming. It just happened. Like that happens all the time where it should work. Everything tells me this should work, and then it goes out and doesn't work. That's otherwise I would have started Darnell Mooney against you a couple weeks ago and won.
Oh yeah. But yeah, no, I love that start. Definitely start Javonte if you have him. So moving right along, we'll go into some wide receivers, and fans rejoice because Cooper Kupp is back, and he is my start this week. He is going against the Vikings. With Puka still out, Kupp, we've seen what Kupp can do with Stafford. So I really don't even need to explain myself too much. It's Kupp and Stafford. Vikings, not a great defense. I think they've given up the most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So put 2 and 2 together, and boom, you're good. So.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings their defense, I wouldn't say they're bad defense. It's just you have to beat them through the air. You cannot beat them on the ground. You're going to beat them through the air. That's it. That's the only opportunity you have. Cooper Kupp is awesome. I wish I was lucky enough to draft him. Maybe not, though, because he's been injured for the entire season. Do you buy into this any of the trade rumors at all for Stafford and Kupp? I don't think they're going to the same spot, but...
I've read a lot of articles. I heard that the Cooper's Kupp's name has been floated around, but I've heard that there's serious talks about Stafford with the Vikings. I don't think it really depends on his landing spot. I don't think it should hurt his stock too much. It should hurt other receivers' stock depending on where Kupp goes. But until anything is concrete, it's just all rumors to me. I actually approached our podmate Chris about trying to acquire Kupp, but the asking price was too steep for me, so we
did have a conversation, and yeah. So Chris, if you're listening to this, lower the price. Let us get in on it.
Don't get me wrong, Kupp is a phenomenal wide receiver, but you also have to remember he is 31 years old, might be going to a new team even. He has no ties really left to the Rams, so I'm not going to spend the first round pick on an unknown old wide receiver, So.
Yeah. We're talking about dynasty, just in case people are confused. We're not sending the first round pick a redraft, but yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go in here with my wide receiver start of the week. It's gonna be Tank Dell going against the Colts. Just gonna pair him with C.J. Stroud, another confidence play this week. He's been really frustrating so far this season, coming off a really bad performance. Another confidence boost in a week with a good matchup against the Colts at home. He's he's a very talented wide receiver, and Stroud absolutely loves him. If you listen to the way Stroud talks about Dell, find yourself someone to talk about you the way Stroud does that, because he absolutely adores him. I think this is the week your patience is going to pay off. It's been rough. It's coming this week. So far, the Colts are middle of the pack against wide receivers, but I do think you can expect a solid game from Dell and the Texans as a whole this week. He's someone I'm actively trying to acquire while his value is low, because at any point this season, probably this week, that door is going to slam shut in your face. So go try to get Tank Dell. He's someone I think finishes the second half of the season extremely strong. And I think this is about the time where we see this happen in players that start really slow, random things happening. He was still getting over the injury from last year. Every game he gets healthier off of that injury. So I think this is about the time he will be one of the top wide receivers this week.
Yeah, no, anyone playing with Stroud is A-okay in my book to pick up, especially Tank Dell. Moving right along, I'm going to keep my Brian train going along. My start is Brian Thomas Jr. He is playing against... Or is he junior? Yeah, he's a junior.
Yeah.
He's playing the Packers. Going into the season, I was a little worried about him. I'm like, man, he's going to be behind Kirk. He's going to be behind Gabe Davis now. Like, is he really going to see that many targets? And the answer is yes. Yes, he is. He is leading the team. He led the team in wide receiver targets last week. If looking down the weeks between him and Kirk, there's been like 2 weeks that Kirk was out targeted, but otherwise it's mainly Brian. He looks to be Trevor's guy, and we all know Trevor has been struggling this year a little bit. Jags haven't looked like the Jags we really thought they were going to be, but he has 4 touchdowns for the year. There's only been 2 weeks where he scored under 10 fantasy points, and I think going right along into Green Bay, I think he's still going to break 10 fantasy points, and you're going to be happy you started him.
He's one of the guys where I'm a little bit nervous this week, just because I think he's going to draw coverage from Jair Alexander, and he's one of these shutdown corners. But if anyone is able to, I think, beat him, it's going to be Brian Thomas, because he just brings something to this offense and the skill set that, I mean, we've already seen some touchdown throws that you're like, oh my God, he caught that? Like, I think he's just that guy. So I wouldn't be shying away from that matchup. Maybe temper expectations just a tad. I don't think he's going to put up like this 30-point game, but solid. He's always got a chance for a touchdown, because otherwise, who else is going to score there? Maybe Tank Bigsby, but I don't expect that this week. So yeah, I really like that start this week. Give the confidence on him. Let's get it done. My next guy here, and this is going to be for deep leagues. Let's say you just lost Brandon Ayuk, you lost Debo, you lost DK. You're navigating through the waiver wire, and you see this guy's name. You're like, should I play him? I'm going to say you probably should. He's someone that you should definitely roster. I think you could play this week as a flex. I'm going to go with Cedrick Tillman going against the Ravens. The Deshaun Watson era is over in Cleveland, at least for this year. Jameis has now been named the starter, and we all know what that brings to the table. He's going to throw the rock like no one's business. Just remember when it was him and Ryan Fitzpatrick trading games back and forth in Tampa. It's going to be the same dude. He hasn't changed. That's just what he does. He's a gunslinger. Last week, Tillman received 12 targets with the departure of Amari Cooper. This team needs someone to step up alongside David Njoku, and I think that's going to be Tillman. The matchup is good, with the Ravens getting a little banged up on the defensive side of the ball last week on Monday Night Football. Pair that with a team chasing points, because the Ravens are going to be able to score. Doesn't matter what defense you are, the Ravens can score on you. I think you're going to be really good, in a good position to have a safe baseline, a safe floor for a wide receiver you just picked up off of waivers. I think that's about as good as it gets in fantasy. So I would be starting Tillman.
Yeah, I mean, for deep leagues, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a 10-team league or an 8-team league,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't even roster him. But, if you're in a 12-team league and have just been ravaged by injuries like pretty much all of us have, unless you're lucky. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. Moving right along, we'll go into some tight ends. Tight ends finally starting to show some life. I know it was a very barren landscape in the beginning of the year, but finally we have some uprisers and someone I've been high on. I've been high on the whole season. I said he was a sleeper pick in drafts, and boy was I right. Is Mr. Brock Bowers. He's my start of the week. He's going against Kansas City. Devontae is gone. He is no longer there. Who becomes the top target? Myers, I guess you could argue, but I think it's Brock Bowers. I think Brock Bowers is going to be the top target for Gardner Minshew or Desmond Ritter, whoever is going to be playing in the absence of Aiden O'Connell. Um, they're going to look for Brock Bowers. He has shown us that he is athletic. He had 14 targets last week for a tight end is crazy for 93 yards, and I think we're just going to keep the ball rolling. He's seeing more and more snap percentage. It's just constantly going up. He started the first 2 games with 68%, then went to 81. Last week he had 84, and it's just going up. So I love the guy. I think he's a great talent. I think he's one of the main weapons of that team now. So if you have him, plug him in. I don't care if it's the Chiefs or any other team. I'm starting Brock Bowers.
He's been just one of these big misses I had because it's just been against my DNA to draft a rookie tight end. But this is 2 years in a row where the rookie tight end has come in and looked real good. Just to kind of add to Brock Bowers here, I'm looking at the target leaders in the NFL at all positions. So wide receiver, tight end, and running backs. Who has more targets, do you think? Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, or Brock Bowers?
I want to say CeeDee Lamb, but if it's Brock Bowers, that's crazy.
It's Brock Bowers. He has
Yeah.
59 targets on the season. CeeDee Lamb has 52. I mean, technically that he had a bye week, so take that with what you will. But Justin Jefferson has 52. So it's been a little bit different. But I like that start. You gotta start Brock. Just keep it going. For me, I'm gonna go with Cade Otton going against the Atlanta Falcons. This comes off of the unfortunate news that Chris Godwin, broken ankle, dislocated ankle, has surgery, will be done for the year, and Mike Evans is out with a hamstring injury. So, Cade Otton, I mentioned him a couple weeks ago as a start because he was getting targets, and this is just, he's going to be an every week starter for you. I'm going to go back to the well with him, and this is just life. You're going to start Cade Otton. Team lost both of the starting running wide receivers, and now the wide receiver room consists of Sterling Shepard, Jalen McMillan, and Trey Palmer. That's it. Baker's been playing out of his freaking mind this year. I think this is where there's going to be targets for Cade Otton. Look what happened last week alone. When Evans went down, what did we see? Targets to Cade. He had some really big plays. This is just a guy that's going to PPR his way into a top tight end option from here on out. And again, not a bad idea for you to pick him up on waivers. It's really good to have one of these top tight ends in the second half of the year. You didn't draft, you just picked them up on waivers. That's how you win leagues. You just get these guys, diamonds in the rough, let the dust settle, and here we are. Cade Otton could finish as a top 6 tight end this year.
Yeah, and when we went to write up this show episode, my first thought was like, oh, Cade Otton for sure, and I saw Matt had already claimed him. So if that tells you anything, Cade Otton should be picked up and should be started. So love that pick. Moving along, I have Mr. Tucker Kraft versus the Jags. To begin the season, I drafted Luke Musgrave in a good amount of leagues, thinking he was the main tight end, and I was wrong. So I went out and I picked up Tucker Kraft to replace him in all these leagues, and I have been very, very happy that I did. He has looked the beginning of the season was a little slow, but we started to pick it up. The last 4 weeks, we have 4 touchdowns, which for a tight end is insane. Jordan Love's back. He looks great. A little nervous when Malik was out, but Tucker Kraft is a very, very solid tight end. He's going against Jacksonville, which has been a little bit of a struggling team there. I think we're going to get another touchdown this week from Mr. Tucker Kraft, and if you have him, I'd start him. What do you think, Matt, about Kraft?
I like Tucker Kraft. Another whoopsie doozles with Luke Musgrave. I mean, this is the exact same situation as the Ravens when they took Hayden Hurst first, and then they grabbed Mark Andrews and realized, oh wait, this dude can actually catch the ball really well. Okay, bye Hayden Hurst. Same situation where we were like, whoopsies. It's crazy what he's been able to do, and the Packers look really, really good. I would really enjoy having any of the Packers on my team. Unfortunately enough, I have them nowhere at all, and it's really not fun. I wish I had part of their offense. My second tight end start of the week is going to be Cole Kmet going against the Washington Commanders. Sorry, this one's very simple. Kmet is super involved in the offense and building rapport with Caleb Williams. Part of Caleb's rise the past few weeks has been due to Cole Kmet. When targeting him, Caleb has an NFL passer rating of 128.3, which is pretty extraordinary for a rookie. As someone who was really worried about how Caleb was going to transition to the NFL, I was a little more down on him than I think everyone on the podcast. It seems like, shouldn't worry, things are progressing well, and I'm going to fire up Kmet wherever I have him with full confidence. He just looks really, really good. He's getting the targets, getting the yards, always there as in the red zone for a touchdown. It's just been real. I've really enjoyed what I've seen from the Bears the past couple weeks.
Yeah, Caleb looks great, and I love that star. I mean, all the rookie quarterbacks, maybe minus Drake May, have looked very, very good, and this arguably might be one of the best quarterback classes we've had in a long time. Where instant rookie year value. So
yeah, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Drake May too. I mean, it took a while to get on the field, but the past 2 weeks he's actually looked pretty good. Like their offense finally, like you have hope that someone's going to do anything.
I don't think it's Drake May's fault too. I mean, if it's the Patriots, like who are their wide receivers? No one really of note, in my opinion. So DeMarcus Douglas. So
yeah.
I think if they get him some help, I think he'll shine. But it's not this year, I don't think. But so moving along, we'll go into some sits here. My first sit, and we talked about it, is Alec Pierce versus the Houston Texans. You could pretty much pick any of the wide receivers on the Colts for me to sit, but definitely Alec Pierce for me. I have a little hope for Pittman to get some targets, but Pierce started off super hot, had that huge game week 1. People are like, oh, he's the guy. He's gonna be the guy. Now Josh Downs is back. That takes away from his target share. And last week he had 5 targets and he caught 2 of them for 15 yards. And the week before that, he had a big old goose egg. So I'm shying away from Alec Pierce until Anthony Richardson can show me something better. But until then, he is a bench or, quite honestly, even a drop candidate for me. So
you can extend this to every pass catcher on the Colts. Like, who are you starting on the Colts? Jonathan Taylor if he's healthy?
Yeah,
that's about it.
I can maybe make an argument for Pittman's like so good that like even though Anthony Richardson looks so bad, maybe you could start him. But yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you want to split 10 receptions amongst all the pass catchers? Because I don't.
Yeah,
I'm good. My sit of the week is going to be Baker Mayfield going against the Falcons. This one's kind of sad, but he's had an awesome year, but sadly, all good things must come to an end at some point. Losing your best 2 wide receivers doesn't help the stats for fantasy managers, and playing him because he was the QB2 in fantasy doesn't mean that it's going to continue. We've seen this time and time again. You lose a couple big weapons, and you obviously suffer. I view him more this week as a QB2 moving forward until we see the combination of Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer, and all the wide receivers, and just to see how things shake out. Because losing your top two guys, this offense is going to change tremendously. They're going to have to. There's no way around it. So I want to see them play a full allotment of snaps. Do they have it? I mean, this could be one of the wins where I have egg on my face because you should just start the guy who's been doing it. But I just don't want to take that risk this week. There's no teams on bye, so there are other options out there. This isn't a sit him forever. It's more of a I just want to see what happens. Are you willing? Are you sitting Baker this week? Or are you just saying he's great, he can throw the ball, and I'm just gonna let's just do this?
It's tough. If you have the option to, I'd love to sit him this week and see how the offense shapes out without Evans and Godwin. I mean, hopefully Evans isn't out for too long. I know Godwin's probably gone for the season, but Evans is like one of his main red zone targets. So without him there, I could see them looking to lean on Bucky Irving running a little more and White. So yeah, it makes me a little nervous, and I would kind of wait to see what happens if you can.
I think Rashad White is the biggest benefactor from having the wide receivers go down, in my opinion. Him and Cade Otton, I think, are the biggest winners out of that scenario.
Yeah, 100%. Moving along, I have someone that's near and dear to your heart, Matt, is Chris Olave versus the Chargers, because I do think he's going to clear concussion protocol, and I do think he's going to start, but I recommend you do not start him. No shade on Chris Olave, he is a great player. It is more that Spencer Rattler does not look to be it, and they're going against the Chargers, which have a pretty good defense. I would not want to start Olave. I mean, he went from 2 points to then -1 points with the injury, and then he was out. So I'd kind of steer clear until Derek Carr gets back. That's my thought process.
Yeah, the rattlesnake does not look very good. Last week was really painful to watch, and with the matchup, I mean, the Chargers, they just do this. They just run the ball. That's all they do, and it just drains the clock out. It's like ugly wins when they do it. I know they lost to the Cardinals this week, but I mean, did you enjoy any of that game? Because I didn't. I watched it and I was like, what is this? This is just run the ball. Okay, a minute went off the clock. Okay, run the ball again. Another minute. It was just painful to watch. So that's how they're going to do it. My sit here is going to be Geno Smith against the Bills. The Bills are a very tough defense. They're only allowing about 15.2 points to opposing quarterbacks on the year. Pair that with DK Metcalf dealing with an MCL sprain, and you got a bad combination for fantasy. Even if DK plays, he ain't going to be 100%. I mean, this isn't the kind of injury where you're like, yeah, he'll be fine. He's going to be hampered, probably on a snap count. It doesn't look like JSN or Tyler Lockett are going to be able to fill his shoes. I know Geno leads the NFL in pass attempts and passing yards, but stats are great until they're not. Stats mean something until they don't. And this is that same situation. JSN's a great wide receiver, but I don't know if he's able to fill the shoes of DK Metcalf. And Tyler Lockett is just an annoyance to JSN managers, which I am one. The Bills can be beat on the ground, so this is going to be a huge Ken Walker game. I expect Zach Charbonnet to get into the mix here a little bit. I just don't see Geno finishing as well as we want him to, unless he has some crazy efficient touchdown game where, he's got like 20 pass attempts, like a Jared Goff, like 20-something pass attempts and but 3 or 4 touchdowns because it just swung the pendulum that way. He's more of a mid-range QB2 this week for me. There's a lot of guys I'd rather play over him.
Yeah, and losing your top target's always tough. At least he's in a little better spot than Baker is because he at least still has JSN and Lockett, but Bills are a good defense, so we'll have to see how he plans out. I mean, if you have other options, definitely go with them. But I'm less worried about Geno than I am about Baker, because Baker lost both his targets. But
agreed. Yeah, I mean, if you had to play one of those, I'd probably play Geno over Baker.
Same here.
But with this week, with no one on buys and the good matchups for like some of the other guys we brought up, I mean, Bo Nix, I'd play him over both of those. Played Bo Nix over both of them, and not think twice about it.
100%.
So, all right, well, that's going to wrap things up for us this evening. Thank you for tuning in. It would be really, really helpful if you guys can do us a huge favor and comment on the video. Tell us what you enjoy. Tell us what you don't enjoy. We want to bring out as much fantasy content as possible. We can only do that if you like, share, and subscribe. We want to do more. We can always do more. We want to do that for you. So please help us out. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you do that with a question, we can read it on one of our next episodes coming up. We got a couple other things in store as the season progresses. We're going to be going into, some trade for targets, trade away targets, looking at some dynasty stuff as well. Me and Joe have a couple things going on, and we want to we have a couple surprises. So we're gonna get those out to you, and so good luck everyone in your week 8. Hopefully you have fantasy points galore and many, many touchdowns in your future. So long, have fun, good luck. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at TheHeroesFF.